Every year I have gardeners come to me and ask why their hanging baskets and their planters and their raised beds, their small containers, just the plants aren't growing very well. They're not doing really well. They're watering them and they're fertilizing, but just things aren't going well. A lot of it has to do with your soil that you use in those containers and how good that soil is. And some potting soils are definitely much better than others. And I'm going to show you what you should watch for in a potting soil so that when you put it in your hanging baskets or in your planters or in your containers, you'll have the best possible soil so that your plants will perform the way that they're supposed to. So there's a lot of different ingredients that we can put into a good potting mix, like the Ultimate Potting Mix from Fertilome. This is our favorite potting soil. But quickly, before we move on, I'm going to show you a polymer that helps the soil retain more moisture, and a lot of potting mixes have this new polymer in it. I'm just going to add water to this. There's about a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of polymer that I put down here in the bottom of the cup. And as we discuss the soils, we're going to let it just absorb up that water, and you'll see how it works. So there was just that much polymer down the bottom, and I filled the glass up with water, and you're going to see how it absorbs up the moisture while we talk about the soil. So Ultimate Potting Mix, it's just a really high quality, nice potting soil, and it's got a lot of different ingredients in here that make it hold more moisture, but also have the right amount of drainage so that your plants can have the right amount of water but not get too wet, too soggy, and then it holds a lot of nutrient as well too. And as you can see, it has very little, if no bark in it whatsoever. It's just a completely all organic mix of a lot of different soil amendments. I'm going to show you those right now. So here we've got peat moss. Now, peat moss comes from Canada, and it's just harvested right out of the peat bogs there in Canada, and it's very absorbent, holds a lot of moisture, and this should be the #1 ingredient in most of your potting mixes is the peat moss because of its ability to hold moisture, and it's just one of the best materials there is to put in your potting soil. So you should see a high quantity of peat moss in your potting soil. A lot of soil manufacturers, or soil blenders I should say, use coconut coir as well for an amendment. And the coconut coir comes from South America, Central America, and it's made from the husks of the coconuts. Extremely absorbent. It's used as a replacement for peat moss. So if you're closer to the border, you'll see potting soils made with more coconut coir because it's less expensive to ship it from Mexico than it is from Canada. But this is an extremely absorbent, very high quality amendment that should be in a good potting mix to help it retain more moisture. And it's used kind of interchangeably with the peat moss, so they both work really well. Vermiculite is also another ingredient. The vermiculite is expanded mica, and they're just like little sponges. They just absorb up and hold moisture like crazy. I would say probably 10 to 15% mixture of vermiculite in with your peat moss and your coconut coir would really give it more water retention ability and improve the quality of your soil. And you've got perlite, and the perlite's, it looks like pumice. That's because it is pumice. And it's a very light volcanic rock, extremely porous. It holds just a little bit of moisture through surface tension, but it's great for drainage. So it actually allows the water to pass down through your soil so it doesn't clump up and turn really hard. So those are the main major ingredients in your potting soils. A lot of times you'll see a little bit of leaf mold, a little bit of compost, but really for a high quality mix like the Ultimate Potting Mix, you won't see any bark in there. They don't put bark and twigs in there. That's basically a very inexpensive filler that they put into the potting soils to decrease the price, but it also makes your soil so it doesn't work as well. It draws nitrogen away from the plants. It doesn't have any water holding ability. The bark is just something cheap that they throw in there just to make it work. If you get a good seed starting mix, it basically has the same ingredients that the regular potting soils have in it, but they've ground it up a little bit finer. So the Fertilome seed and cutting mix, as you can see, is mostly peat moss and vermiculite. It has just a little bit of perlite in it, but it's like super fine in comparison to their regular potting soil. So basically this is the same material It's just been ground up, and so it's a lot finer, and it's great for starting seeds and for transplanting cuttings. And these are the types of soils that you'll be wanting to use to be more successful with your hanging baskets and your planters throughout the year. Now, as we've been talking, that has absorbed up all that moisture. As you can see, it doesn't even want to come out. That polymer has absorbed up every ounce of that water and is going to retain it and gradually release it out as the soil becomes dry around it. Now there's some wonderful products around, but the best one is made right here in Cache Valley, and it's called Nutrigel. And not only is it the polymer, but it has a fertilizer in it as well too. You can add this to your soil mixes to help them retain moisture a lot longer, and basically it turns into Jello and absorbs up 100 times its weight in water, and will hold that moisture and release it out to your plants as they need it. So that entire cup is filled up with just about a tablespoon of polymer, and the amount of water that we put in there just absorbed it up. It will hold more water if we add more to it. So use the best soils with the best amendments, and your plants will be much more successful throughout the summertime, especially at holding moisture, but at making your plants grow and produce what you want if you use the right potting soil to start off with.